Well, hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to 2CTV, your global news channel. We come to you guys with some breaking news from the Middle East. The IRGC have ordered the Islamist forces to be on standby and prepared to receive the command coming from the supreme leader following the discovery of yet another key secret nuclear site inside Iran. We're going to give you guys the latest update as the Islamic Republic are now threatening the Americans while at the same time still negotiating over the nuclear issue. The Americans are also preparing as some of the equipment have now also been mobilized to Diego Garcia by the US forces. But we're going to talk about all this in this live stream. There's a lot to cover. There's a lot of nonsense coming from inside Iran. The mainstream media spreading fake news. So we're going to be actually verifying everything. Before we do that, a big shout out and thank you to every single person watching and supporting this channel as a geopolitical news channel. We've actually gained almost 20,000 new subscribers in less than 2 weeks. Only a couple of weeks ago, we hit 800,000 subscribers. So big thank you to every single person. Let's talk about the supreme leader of Iran. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight inside Tehran, there is a bit of a panic, mostly because everything that's happened over the last few days inside Iran, all the mysterious explosions and fires, that nobody still technically knows who was responsible for. There's a lot of theories around this, obviously Mossad, perhaps MIM, CIA, but at this point it's unlikely. The most credible theory is probably not necessarily false flag, but actually inside job because of the division at the top of the IRGC and some elements of the anti-IRGC Iranians doing it. But we are going to talk about what's been discovered now, again, and why the Islamic Republic are mobilizing their forces in the Middle East. So everything goes back to this area you can see on the map. In the southeastern parts of Tehran, the capital of Iran, there is a site. There is a secret nuclear site that the Iranian regime have been working on before they even signed the agreement with Barack Hussein Obama, the former president of the United States. Then obviously everything post 2015 onwards, after the Iran deal, the Islamic Republic continued to building secret nuclear facilities. They weren't supposed to. Surprise, surprise. You negotiate with terrorists, they're not going to be truthful or transparent. This is the image that we now have. This is the site that the Iranian regime are pretending to be something else. You know, it's just another infrastructure. Don't worry about it, guys. And they've been lying to the UN. They've been lying to the United States and everybody else in the European Union. There's a timeline that we have to go through. The reason I'm still talking about this nuclear site, the secret bunker and the underground site, is because of the threats now coming from the IRGC. They have a feeling that the negotiations might not actually end well, mostly because of this new discovery. That's why they are mobilizing their forces, and the Americans are also mobilizing their forces just in case if the Iranian regime attacks the Americans again. In August 2009, the base wasn't there, but as you can see, there were some activities. You can see a couple of cars there, and there was a bit of movement. August 2011, they started building more. These are satellite images that confirms the activities in the area, and they did not declare this publicly. They were supposed to, but they didn't, especially in 2013 when the Iranian regime and the Americans were beginning to discuss the next move. Now, not only the whole thing is built, just remember this picture, this is from 2013, it actually has everything around it, including new roads and the whole infrastructure, and there's something else in the bottom right. This is June 2024. Now, with all this information that's now come out, and even Fox News has been reporting on this over the last few hours, the Iranian regime are on standby. So the head of the IRGC said that this is a serious warning to the Zionist officials and the US officials. Make one wrong move and we will open the gates of hell on you. Sit down and stay in your place. We are fully prepared. Now imagine you have a situation with negotiations with the Americans. Now at the same time, you are going around lying to everybody, including the Americans. We know that the Iranian regime this is not gonna end well for any of them. One of the main problems that we've had is that when they did this with Obama, it worked. With President Trump, perhaps it's not going to work. But to be fair, everything's actually been going on with certain people, including Steve Witkoff. It might not actually be a good idea because a lot of people are terrified about the response coming from the Americans. But having said that, we have to talk about the issue around the threats. First things first, the IRGC's drone surveillance of the US Navy assets. They've been sending drones to spy, and this is just happening now, in the Persian Gulf. It's a glaring failure of deterrence. Now, the Americans have certain powers. The HR 1386 Section B authorizes the use of force to disable hostile drones. But obviously, we're still seeing the Iranian regime operating this. This isn't really about monitoring, it's about exposing the systemic gaps in the counter-drone protocols by the Americans. Now, the same powers also allocates resources for intercepting and neutralizing these drones. But obviously, there's been a lot of bureaucratic issues in the American system. We do also have laser systems that the Americans can use under the same powers to disable the hostile drones by the Iranian regime. Now, there's a lot of people who are slightly concerned about the Islamic Republic of Iran making these moves publicly and openly, being hostile and actually allowing this footage to be published, to be leaked. They want you to see it. Now, on the one hand, they're pretending it's a secret. It's not really that secretive because they want you to know. It's the same situation we had where in my own experience, obviously, there was an attempt of kidnapping outside my old flat in central London by the IRGC, well, allegedly the Iranian embassy. And there was another time where I was being followed in London and the person wanted me to know I'm being followed. It was for intimidation. They didn't want to do anything. It was just to send a message, basically. And it has happened many times. This is a tactic that they use all the time. Now, all this is happening, but there's an update coming from Diego Garcia. Satellite images from Diego Garcia shows yesterday on the 7th of May that the following aircraft from the Americas have now arrived. We got 6 KC-135Rs. These are the refueling tankers. 2 C-17s. These are the military transport aircraft. 6 B-2 Spirits. These are the stealth bombers. And 2 B-52H. They're the strategic bombers. This was yesterday. And today, on the 8th of May, the Americans have mobilized more of their forces. 4 B-52Hs, their bombers, have now arrived at Diego Garcia, not too far. Now, this is just for precautions. This is not really to kick anything off, but obviously with everything that's been going on with the Islamic Republic and everything that they've now said, the head of the IRGC directly threatening the Americans and the Israelis, right? Because they are blaming the discovery of their secret nuclear site on the Mossad, the Zionists, and the Americans. You are negotiating with the Americans and you're threatening those guys. It's not really a good tactic. Now, the Israelis are also responding. Israel Katz, on behalf of the Israeli government, said to the IRGC and the Supreme Leader, the era of proxies is over and the axis of evil has collapsed. You bear direct responsibility. What we did to Hezbollah in Beirut, to Hamas in Gaza, to Assad in Damascus, and the Houthis in Yemen, we will do to you in Tehran. So we are getting to the end game. It might have taken about a year and a half. Actually, to be fair, everything has happened. A year and a half, it's not really that long. It did feel a bit like it's been dragged on. Everything's been going on since October the 7th. But if you consider that the Israelis and the West in general it wasn't just about Gaza. If the operation was just about Gaza, then yes, you could have said, well, it's been almost 2 years. What is the IDF doing? But the Israelis have been dealing with Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon. Obviously, the threat from Assad was being managed, but obviously then Erdogan did a coup in Syria, and al-Jilani became self-appointed president, was obviously Houthis in Yemen. Every single one of these threats has been eliminated. The final boss is the Islamic Republic. And it seems like the way it's going, that's going to happen. Now, a lot of people are saying it's still wishful thinking. How can we even imagine a all-out conflict with the Islamic Republic? But let's not forget that the Iranian regime don't really have the support of the Iranian people because they are the Islamic occupiers. And it's not like you go into, for example, war with a country that has everybody's backing the government, everybody's going to join the armed forces and everyone's going to defend them. No, it's not going to happen. The Israelis know this, the Americans know this. Now, we will wait to see what strategy or tactic the US government is actually using, because they're still negotiating. Even though the negotiations are not going too well between Iran and the US, but that's still going on. I'm not really sure after today, the expose about the secret nuclear sites, which shows that you can't trust the Iranian regime. And also the fact that the IRGC are now directly threatening the Americans, the people that they're diplomatically negotiating with. I'm not really sure how you can actually have any progress going forward in the next round of these nuclear talks. Now, obviously, I'm going to get your reaction as well on this. There's so much to cover. Let's get the first super chat. Marie, thank you very much, saying 819,000 subscribers. Go, brother. The truth rules. Thank you very much. The channel continues to grow. Like my hair, it's getting huge. I was supposed to get a haircut 2-3 days ago, but obviously I got my back injured, so I haven't been able to actually move that much. Graham says, what will they do? Throw goats at the US? Well, to be fair, the Iranian regime don't necessarily do goats. That's more like a Afghanistan sort of thing, Pakistan sort of thing, but they'll probably just throw, I don't know what they're going to throw. They don't have much, really, the Islamic Republic. The super chat saying they will learn how to behave when we start busting lead. That's another super chat saying, I hope your dad is doing okay. Unfortunately, I haven't actually heard from him or the family today. Obviously, for those who are familiar with my background, my father is actually in Iran and is stuck. He's been held by the IRGC. He's not allowed to leave. But over the last couple of days, he's been in hospital, so which doesn't feel safe considering his situation politically speaking and relations to me. He's had an operation yesterday. I did get an update last night that the operation went well, but I haven't actually heard from them today, so I don't know how he's doing. I'll try to call them tomorrow sometime. What is this? Tusi is as busy as a whore on dollar night trying to run from story to story right now. There's so much going on at the same time. It will be nice if they give me a bit of break, because one of the problems with running a geopolitical news channel is that everything happens at the same time. Sometimes it's so quiet, nothing's happening. I'm like, well, this is good. When you don't hear from me, that means it's good, because the world is peaceful. The thing about news channels is, I try my best every now and then to bring you some happy news or positive news, but it tends to be all doom and gloomy. But sometimes it just happens at the same time. So right now, when we finish this, we're waiting to hear more updates about the conflict between India and the Pakistani government nutters. So as Kabbalah says, no news is good news. Exactly. Anyway, Lily says, Maya, we are starting a Scottish woodland community. I hope you and Danielle will come be our king and queen. Well, I've been getting a lot of requests from different countries for me to go and be. Some countries want me to be their dictators. I'm more than happy to be a dictator, but I can't be necessarily a prime minister or president. I do not do politics. I'm not a team player. You know that. I feel really bad for the good people from Iran. This regime is evil. It has to stop, and it will. This is the end game. It's happening. It's just a matter of when rather than if, and it's not going to be that long, because with all the political pressure on Israel, the Israeli government, and the reality is they're going to have to do it. We have a very interesting comment. We have a troll in the live chat whose name is, I can confirm, is not Iranian. It's not a Persian name. right? But he's saying, I am Iranian and I support the Islamic Republic of Iran. Tusi and his father are traitors. Yes, yeah, you're not Iranian. You can't self-identify as Iranian. That's not how it works. This is not California. So you can't pretend to be Iranian without an Iranian name. Anyway, let's see. What else we have from these weird trolls? Deb says, when it ends, will you bring your dad to the UK? Well, my dad is very much attached to his country, Iran, and he's very much of a patriot, and he wants to stay in Iran to build his country. I've tried to bring him out, but he doesn't want to. So, and it's too late now because he's been held. Roy says, pray for your father. I hope your back is better. It's getting worse. Was with Iran. Wait, what? Will not be an easy task, but will be a complete mess. It will be a complete mess. Absolutely. People are responding to that troll. It was funny. Oh dear. Yeah, Stadia says Iran continues to cancel the scheduled meetings. They keep postponing everything. And in the name of technical talks, they continue to just try to buy time and stall. And I genuinely believe what was discovered today, which we reported at the beginning of this live stream, about the secret nuclear sites. Firstly, nobody's surprised. Nobody's shocked. Oh, I had no idea that the Iranian regime had secret nuclear sites. Obviously they had. But the timing of it is interesting. Let's not forget that there is an element of the American influence, especially when it comes to CIA, even with the support of Mossad, and using the mainstream media channel like Fox News, pro-US government. You can see the timing is not a coincidence. Now, this secret nuclear site could have been exposed a month ago, 6 months ago, a year ago. But I believe this is coordinated because the talks are not going well, and the Americans want to essentially provoke the Iranian regime to walk away. And the Iranian regime continues to just postpone their scheduled calls and meetings that they have, even through the third parties. But we're waiting now for I think tomorrow, 2 days from now, they're going to be discussing things. Goes Hybrid, thank you for your super chat, saying, I take it this means that the US-Iran nuclear negotiations are not going well. Definitely not. Although, having said that, we've had some weird surprises. I mean, even the Obama administration, people were still surprised that that deal, that terrible Iran deal, was actually signed and announced proudly by Obama. Now, whatever you want to think about Obama, and he was a terrible, terrible president, people were still surprised that he actually caved in. Now, whatever his agenda was, again, we can speculate whether he and his team were naive, or did they do it to help the Iranian regime, or was there something else in play behind the scenes that they needed that to be done to deal with something else? It was still a bit of a surprise that that specific deal was actually confirmed by the American government, regardless of who the president is. So I'm saying, while we are saying that the US-Iran talks are not going well, and a lot of people still have faith in President Trump, you never know. Anything, the Iranian regime are sneaky. They're going to find a way to get what they want. They might not be able to get the Americans to sign a terrible Iran deal like Obama, but they can get them to sign some sort of interim fake deal, a transition deal, to postpone the next level of talks, right? They could do that. Let's say sign a deal for like 2 years, and then we could continue, just to get some relief on sanctions. Jen says, I stand with the UK, but we Americans have been taken advantage of by the entire world for so long that our anus can't take any more abuse. We need the win. You guys do need the win. That's why you're going to have to do something about these negotiations, because I'm not really sure. I mean, to be fair, over the last couple of weeks, the messaging has been slightly more robust. I mean, we've covered this already on this channel, but a few weeks ago when Steve Witkoff was talking, everybody was like slightly concerned that so the Americans are going to agree to the Iranian regime enriching uranium. But since then, we had J.D. Vance, you had Marco Rubio, we had President Trump himself saying that's not going to happen. We're not going to let them do it. If they can have a peaceful nuclear energy, but they should buy it from somewhere else. in terms of enriched uranium. Chrissy says, attack from inside. They seem to have immobilized their people within the UK, as the arrests have shown the last few days. They have probably got cells in every country. Oh, the Iranian regime definitely has active cells, terror cells, and sleeper cells. Absolutely, of course. Now, the big problem we currently have is if countries are going to be isolated like idiots in the West and not realize that you're going to need each other's support, then this happens. So the French government, well, they claim to be very patriotic, right? Macron says, I love the French flag and all that stuff. That doesn't mean anything, because from his perspective, he's basically saying that we don't trust the Americans, okay, but he wants to have an EU army. Now, it makes no sense. The British government is now pandering to the French while trying to keep President Trump happy. They are not united. Okay, we have one of my favorite regular trolls back, RJ's Clips, who is a Nigel Farage loyalist, saying, you are not a true nationalist, are you, Maya? Loose tea. Oh, that's a good one. He usually comes up with some insulting nicknames, and that's a good one. Loose tea instead of Tusi. Yeah, it's not bad. We struck a deal with Trump, and you slate the UK, the country that's housed you and saved you from destruction, and you side with America. So I'm going to give you a summary about what this idiot is ranting about. So a few hours ago, the UK and the US side announced the new trade deal between the Americans and the Brits, negotiated by Keir Starmer. I gave you the details. I analyzed the actual deal. Even the opposition parties are kicking off because the deal is terrible for the UK and it's great for the Americans. And you can't blame President Trump. He had to put the interests of America first, and he got a great deal for America. We got a terrible deal in the UK. So that's the summary of what happened. And I reported and said it's a terrible deal for the UK. Just like how President Trump, when he was first elected, he said, for example, NAFTA, the agreement that he had with Canadians, with Mexicans, this was a terrible deal for America. We have to fix it. So I said the same thing about the UK deal by the Keir Starmer's government. It's terrible. This idiot is a Nigel Farage loyalist, says, because I said that, you slate the UK. We struck a deal with Trump. You attacked the UK, the country that's housed you. You see the problem, right? The lack of logic. You have to criticize the government when they are doing stupid things. Criticizing Keir Starmer's Labour government doesn't mean you hate the United Kingdom. Now, I understand that Nigel Farage is friendly with Keir Starmer. I understand Nigel Farage's loyalists are very close to Keir Starmer's Labour Party. We get it, because their plan, their main agenda is to destroy the Tory Party. Rightly so, because the Tory Party, you can't trust them right now. But because of the friendship between Starmer and Farage, obviously his loyalists, his blind faith loyalists, are just going to defend everything that Keir Starmer is going to do. So this idiot is now criticizing me for criticizing Keir Starmer's government for making a bad deal. Now, HP says, I think RJ's Clips is still in primary school, and no way those comments are made by anyone over the age of 10. Yeah, this is what happens with some people with a lack of political intellectuality. Let's see what else we have in the super chats. I sorry I missed some of these comments. Omid, thank you very much for your super chat. And we also have Blackfish Blues saying, Maya, your back pain could be a stroke of the witch, as we call it in Italy. Had one once while bending to pet a doggy. Psychotherapy will help too. Physiotherapy helps. Yes, I've been getting physiotherapy support on this. Psychotherapy will also probably help. Jeff says something big is happening. It looks like the beginning of World War III. No, I mean the go-to option is not always necessarily World War III. The thing is, because we had the First World War, which was the Great War. They didn't call it the First World War until the second one. Then the second one happened. Then they put numbers, so they're like, oh, we had one, we're going to have the third one. So everyone's obsessed with the word World War III. But you're not necessarily going to have that, not the same way as World War II, for example. It's the world has changed. I'm not saying there's not going to be a big war. Oh yeah, there's going to be a definitely huge conflict on a global scale, but not the same way. You can't put 3 next to it, because 3 is obviously presumes that it's going to be the same format as a second one, where you're going to have teams like this. China is currently trying to simply reshape the world order. And we also have a bunch of Western globalist idiots who have already changed the existing world order that's been in place since the 1940s. So we are already in the middle of the transition from the existing structure, the global structure, and not for good. It's not a good thing. So there's a lot of people around the world, pro-freedom people from countries like Poland and Japan to Australia and Canada, and they're sitting there, all these people who believe in democracy, believe in freedom, believe in their country and their flag, and nobody right now is optimistic, because the people who are influencing and shaping the world and the structure of the world are the ones who don't want you to have a say, whether you're talking about the Eastern globalists or the Western globalists. This guy's back. RJ's Clips has responded. The thing is, being in politics for so long, you have become a politician. I've become a politician. Do you think politicians talk like me? And you yourself don't know what you stand for. I stand for freedom and life. That's it. You are a nationalist, but mock the deal. Well, no, mock the UK for striking a deal. Now, I'm now convinced RJ's Clips is actually 9 years old, because no one can be that stupid. I mean, the rest of you understood what I said, right? And I think most people right now, rightly so, understand that the British government, the socialist British government that negotiated a terrible deal on behalf of the country, have completely betrayed the farmers, small businesses, the industries. And you cannot just blindly defend and support the party. Well, the party, Chairman Mao, did something for our country. Doesn't matter that he just killed millions of people. He did it for the country. You're going to have to support Chairman Mao, the party. This is what's happening. You have to support the party, whether it's Reform or the Labour government. Support the party, even if they just kill all the farmers and take their land. Well, they did it. So if you criticize Keir Starmer. All right. Maya, what do you suppose the reasoning is behind the Iranian regime postponing? Well, I don't think that at this point, I think they're trying to find a way. Obviously, they're trying to buy time, but they're trying to find a way to see where they go from here. I'm convinced that the Iranian regime are sneaky. They've been clever enough to be a relatively until now, a stable dictatorship. It's not easy to be a dictatorship. People think it's easy. You just put a gun to people and say it's not easy. Having said that, they are not that smart right now to know how to deal with President Trump. So I think they're just buying time, because they need to actually assess their own options. There are not many options left. The only good option for the Iranian regime would be they can't accept the deal proposed by Trump. That's a terrible idea for the Iranian regime. Basically, if they accept that no more enriched uranium, well, it's terrible for them. It's like Hamas. If they accept a deal that says release all the hostages, obviously they should release all the hostages, but it will be a terrible idea for Hamas to accept that, because that's the only leverage they have. So for the Iranian regime, the best deal, but the best option on the table, if I were their advisor, would say an interim deal. It's basically a fake transition deal. It's basically to officially postpone the actual talks for another couple of years. It's the only thing, because they can't accept Trump's deal, Trump's proposal, and it seems like the Americans are not going to accept what the Iranian regime have proposed, which is we're still going to enrich uranium. So I think they just don't know what they're doing. They have a couple of options. The old oak says, Iran should do a quick history review before they decide to go any further. Take into consideration that every nation's leader that the US has gone to war with no longer exists. It doesn't get more real. Yeah, but they also know that President Trump is anti-war. And they know that President Trump ideally doesn't want any conflict. And they are using that against him. Now, I'm not saying that President Trump should be pro-war. Absolutely not. But President Trump is also very pragmatic, which means he's unpredictable. Which means that the same anti-war president, if he has to defend America, he would destroy the Iranian regime. Now, he doesn't want that to be the first option. We know that. But I think the Iranian regime are using that right now against us, because they're just sitting there comfortably saying, at the end of the day, Trump's not going to start a war. Stu says, The World War III will be the Islamists against the free Western powers. Russia running propaganda, North Korea selling arms. Well, North Korea selling arms is a fantasy land, by the way. They can't even handle their own army. And China cleaning up like Wombles. Yeah, well, that's their ideal situation for the Eastern globalists. But actually, I mean, I still think that the situation with the rise of Islam will be dealt with. Probably not in my lifetime, but it will be. There will be some sort of internal conflict inside many countries like Canada, France, the UK, Germany, Sweden. But it will be dealt with. Islam will never win. They will do destruction, but they can't win. They never won. The problem is they are not united. Inside Islam, this, as a political ideology, it's so divided, not just in terms of Shias and Sunnis, the whole thing. So, yes, they will definitely do a lot of destruction, but they will not win against the Christian West. And I'm not saying that there will have to be necessarily some sort of crusades. It's not about that. It's about the people of the West. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. I'm Maya Tusi, and we are the media.